Hello. All right, so we're going over the output from our research that we did before the break. So this is Spring 2020 paper. You can find this in D2L under paper assignments. And so the descriptives here, notice it says age. That's going to be talking about age. And so it says mean standard deviation. And so we have the average age is 24, standard deviation 4.032. That's going to go in our methods sections for our participants. All right, this is just a breakdown by class section. Next, we're going to look at gender. We've got 21 male, 48 female, 1 non-binary. This down here is just a breakdown of age. We don't need that. If we're going to do something, an analysis based on over 25 and under 25, then we would have this information over here, 47 and 23. All right, so here's where we are going to start looking at the t-test. Remember, we are doing an independent t-test. When we are doing an independent t-test, we are going to use from the SPSS results an APA guide how to write this out. That is again under SPSS and APA guides on D2L. So we are going to use the mean and standard deviation if and only if there is a difference between the two conditions. So we've got warm and cold and how they're rated as terms of generous to ungenerous. We're going to come back to these group statistics only after we decide which 3 analysis we want to run. And when I say run, we're going to just pull the information from these tables. I'm thinking based on the warm versus cold to do generous versus ungenerous, unhappy, and then we could do good-natured and irritable. So we'll do 3 out of the first 4. We're just going to leave wise and shrewd out. You can do whichever ones you want, whichever ones you feel are interesting. This is just a continuation standard error. The mean is just a continuation from up here where it says standard deviation. It's just another column. Here's just more group statistics. All right, so we're going to keep scrolling down. And here we go. We get to the independence t-test. So we ignore Levine's test for equality of variances. Unless by some chance it's less than 0.05, we're going to use the top line. Because what happens is, if it's less than 0.05, we assume the variances are not equal, that they're significantly different, which makes sense. Remember, the null is things are equal. If we don't have a value that is above 0.05, we assume that they are not equal. And so therefore we go equal variance is not assumed. But for the 1, 2, 3 that we're doing, we can see that the p is above that. But we do need to pull out these t values. Don't worry about grabbing them right now. There's going to be a summary table which we can pull this all from shortly. I just want to show you how to read SPSS output for a later time and date. So we're going to go down until the next page when we start seeing degrees of freedom, 68. We have a two-tailed, not significant. Mean difference, and we'll go on, it'll give us all the values later. We're not doing wise, but we're doing, look, unhappy. Look at that, significant difference, because it's less than 0.05. Good, natured, irritable, less than 0.05. We can do humorless too if you want to do all 3. Remember that you need to tie these to the introduction and then talk about the discussion, what the implications of this are, and how single words can make a difference. All right. So let's keep rolling through. Remember, this is all available to you. Right. And these are just more analysis that were run. All right. This is if we ran it by male versus female. for this point in this project, we're going to keep it simple and keep it based on warm and cold over here. All right, let's go take a look. We have a summary statistics document. It is called Summary of Spring 2020 Information, and you are able to, due to the situation, pull the information directly from here. And so you can look, you've got the nice table, warm and cold condition, t-test results, Cones D. Remember, we only report a value if it is significant. All right, so we would use this row because we're doing generous, ungenerous. We're doing this one and this one. Now, if you'll notice, the ones that are highlighted green are ones that are significant. Remember, you can do more for extra credit as well. In addition to the data that we just were looking at, we need to do graphs. Here are the graphs. You need to find the graph that corresponds to each analysis. And so the way you can do that is you can look by here, where it says mean ungenerous by condition. So it's warm and cold. So we were talking about that one. We were also looking at shrewd, happy, and you can just do this. You can Control F and type in what you're looking for. So if we're doing ungenerous, and it'll go through that way. Do the first word that is associated with this table over here. So we can also do it by doing unhappy. So hit Control F if you are doing unhappy. If that doesn't work, try happy. There you go, happy. So try one of the two ones. It might not always work perfectly. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put it into the final outline. All right, so don't forget to make a proper capitalized title, add title here, your affiliation, abstract, introduction. So here, what we need to do is to put in all three articles that you're supposed to read, and you're supposed to integrate them. Please share with classmates, and you guys can share summaries with each other. Participants, this is where we put the 70 participants. We put the average age that we found, the standard deviation, the gender breakdown. We put from a small Midwestern university. Materials, all of these are currently up on D2L. If you need to review them because it's been a couple of weeks, please feel free to go through and do that. Procedure, this is where a step-by-step list of the steps that we did is done. All right, and then here, I forgot to mention, you put in the hypotheses. And so I want those to look like this. Hypothesis 1, something like there will be a difference in how participants rated the happiness of researchers depending on whether they are in the warm or cold condition. And then you would do the same thing for hypothesis 2. And 3, there will be a difference in, let's say, not happiness, but how generous. And so you got to just pick that part to fit in the sentence a little bit. So there'll be a difference in how participants rated how generous the target was, target being the professor, depending on whether they were in the warm or cold condition. And you do the same thing for hypothesis 3. By the way, this over here is Grammarly, and I highly recommend it. It's a few bucks per month, but really helpful with writing. All right, so as we talked about already, we go down to participants, materials, and then we do the results. We do the APA sections right here. Now those are available in the SPSS APA guides, and we just take and we plug and play our information into this the same way that we did for our Pepsi challenge. Remember discussion, we have implications, limitations, future research. This is on D2L. So implications, you need to talk about each individual hypothesis. Limitations, what could be done worse. Not worse, just what could be done better. Future research, talk about ways that we can take what we looked at and expand it. All right. So references. References go here. And we can change references by going up here and clicking on references. Make sure it's on APA. You can click on Manage Sources. Click New. Journal article. Now this has not been updated for the 7th edition of APA. So there are a few changes in what's going on, but for the most part it works. Mostly the biggest change for APA 7th edition is how you talk about 3 or more. All 3 or more are et al. And so you put the name here. Now notice there's an example down here on how to write it. You do title, journal name, year, pages, but that's not all we need. We need more information. We need to enter information for the volume. And so for each of these, it gives an example down at the bottom. We need the issue. We also need to include the DOI, and then we can click OK. And now you have your references in there. Now, what you can do is once you're done with this, you click on Bibliography, and you click down to References. And boom, you now have perfect references. Notice it's got the hinking indent, and it works just right. Now, after the reference section, you'll start doing tables. For every analysis, you either need to do a table or you need to do a graph. And you need to reference these tables and graphs in the results section. And you need one for each hypothesis. So this is how it looks. It says figures, and then each one of these go on a new page. And so what we can do is we can take, copy, this is for happy, and we're just going to click change picture. I'm going to hit Control V, delete this one, and then we talk about figure 1, what it talks about. Notice how it talks about a little bit. It's something like, this is a comparison of how and then talk about what the hypothesis was stating. Basically restate the hypothesis. All right, and then you do this 3 times. And so this is figure 1. You would copy and paste this, not the figures part, but this part down here. And then do it again for figure 2 and figure 3. These are the bottom. Each one of these get their own page. That is it. Please let me know what questions and comments you guys have.